Hello and welcome back to Kaylee Daily. Today's question is, what are the benefits of hypnobirthing?
This is Kaylee Daily, the bi-weekly podcast about all things doula tips and tips, where we answer one question about pregnancy, labor, postpartum, or lactation in order to have your journey in this parenting world be just a little bit more informed and filled with consent.
Hello and welcome back to Kaylee Daily. I'm Kaylee Harrod, your host of this beautiful podcast, and I have another dear friend and guest speaker with me today. Lindsey Vick is one of my doula mentors and a wonderful hypno genius, I'll say, and has a lovely new class all about hypnobirthing. And so she's here to answer the question, what is the benefit of hypnobirthing? And to tell you about her awesome class, because, you know, this whole series is about childbirth education options. And so I'm going to pass it over to Lindsey to tell us a little about herself and about the benefits of hypnobirthing.
Awesome. Well, hey, Kaylee. Thanks for having me on this morning. I'm happy to talk about hypnobirthing. In fact, that's all I talk about. I've been a hypnobirthing instructor for a little over 12 years now, and I've taught thousands and thousands of families this amazing program. Hypnosis is just a state of mind, right? So if we can start from that definition, hypnosis is a normal state of mind that everybody goes into many times a day when you're brushing your teeth and daydreaming. You're reading a book and you get so engrossed in what's happening that you can see yourself there with the characters and you're thinking, well, I would have said this, and then this happens, and you kind of feel all of these emotions. That's a form, it's the same state of mind as hypnosis is. So with hypnobirthing, we're using that state of mind to create positive change in our bodies, to create a sense of control and agency over how our labor unfolds. And that's one of the definitions of a good birth. I refer to this book by Dr. Ann Lyerly frequently, called A Good Birth.
And I love that book.
So do I. Some of the concepts that she writes about include agency.
Yes.
And control. And when we can have agency and control, that results in better birth outcomes. It results in more satisfaction from parents with their birth experience. And that is what hypnobirthing seeks to provide folks.
Yeah.
The benefit, right? In a short summary, is that people generally have more comfortable births. They often have shorter births and less complicated birth experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who has a hypnobirthing will have an unmedicated vaginal birth with no intervention. Sometimes there are interventions because, life, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to have a perfect birth. How we interpret that birth, right, means so much more. So much more. I've had some students over the years who had cesareans or had an unplanned epidural or any kind of variation from their birth preferences. And almost always they come back and they say, I felt like we made good decisions. I felt in control of the decisions we were making. And even though I had a cesarean or even though I had an epidural, it was the right choice for me. And I'm really proud that that's how my labor went. Of course, I wish it had been different, right? But that wasn't the hand of cards that I was dealt, right? And there's peace that comes with that. I found hypnobirthing, Kaylee, after my first child was born, and I take a different childbirth class, which I loved. It was a great class, but I didn't feel like it prepared me for the variations that happen in labor, right? And when I had a big variation, I didn't really know how to process that.
Yeah.
And with hypnobirthing, one of my favorite parts of hypnobirthing is how we help parents reframe how they perceive labor, right? And that's really part of hypnosis as well. We're able to reframe for our own brain how our brain interprets sensation. And if we can reframe how the brain interprets sensation, well, couldn't that mean that we could reframe the sensations of birth as well? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. These aren't things that happen, Kaylee, overnight. You don't
Yeah.
pick up a book and read it, and then tomorrow you're like, I'm a hypnobirthing queen.
Right.
Practice.
Yes.
Takes practice. And, there are some programs where you can learn on your own.
Yeah.
And this is going to be totally self-serving, or at least it will seem self-serving. I
Hmm.
really recommend taking a class.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be my class, but any class that
Yes.
teaches these concepts with another person so that you can kind of
Mhm.
bounce off of them, the expert, on what's happening, how you're feeling, and they can give you feedback. Yeah,
Mhm.
this is what's supposed to happen, or, that's actually not supposed to happen that way. Let's retool. Let's maybe
Yep.
modify that technique for you a little bit. Let's help you perfect it for
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
Another benefit of hypnobirthing is that it's malleable. We can
Hmm.
modify absolutely anything, right? There's
Yeah.
really only a couple ways to do counter pressure, right?
Right. You only
There are,
have so many bones in your pelvis.
right. But there are a bazillion different ways to use
Yeah.
hypnosis for birthing.
Yep.
So yes, there are lots of different classes that are out there on the
Yep.
market, and my new class seeks to kind of fill in the gaps. We
Yep.
have hypnobirthing classes that are super, super rigid. You have to do this way. And there are
Mhm.
others that say, here's a zillion different things you can do. Figure it out.
Pick from the pile.
From the pile. Also, there's a right way. There's a
Yeah.
right way. And if you don't do it that way, you're bad.
Or if the outcome isn't how you wanted it, it's your
You did it
fault.
wrong. It's your
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
My co-founder of HelloBirth, Hypnobirthing, and I wanted to create a program that was inclusive, that spoke to the needs of the people who are birthing babies today, that gave permission for folks to use the program how they see fit, right? And that,
Mm.
to me, is the benefit of
Yeah.
hypnosis, right? You can reframe it in the way that works for you. And our
Hmm.
HelloBirth hypnobirthing class seeks to help parents absorb the information in a way that works for them. So
Hmm.
it's true to the definition of hypnosis as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because I think hypnosis, I feel like hypnobirthing has been a turnoff for some clients who are like, but what if I decide I want an epidural? Like, then am I messing it up, you know? And I'm like, it's not, it's never that black and white. Like, it's
Huh?
not that simple. So I love that your class includes a wide variety instead of just like, there's this one way, you know?
Right,
Because so
right.
much about birth we can't anticipate until it happens. And you know this, having had two children, you know?
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to say to prospective students of my class is,
Hmm.
hypnobirthing is not for the person who's planning an unmedicated vaginal birth at home. It's not
Hmm.
for the person who's planning a medicated, cesarean in a hospital.
Hmm.
It's for anybody who is planning to birth a baby,
Yeah.
however it is that they're planning to do that.
Yep.
And I see a lot of my students come into class not really knowing what they
Hmm.
want,
Hmm.
or they have an idea of what they want because that's what their mom did, their sister did,
Yeah.
their friend, their cousin, their
Mm.
coworker. It's not authentically what they want because they don't
Yeah.
yet know what they authentically want.
Yeah.
So we spend a good deal of time in class sort of exploring all the options
Hmm.
and helping folks narrow in on the things that are important to them, their priorities,
Yeah.
their vision of their birth. We help
Hmm.
crystallize that for them, but not giving them, the vision, from
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
right?
Not your vision.
With
Yes.
their own vision. And I think that's really
Yeah.
neat. It's a neat part of the
Yeah.
class.
I feel like it's so important to have that like space for people to even imagine that it can look differently. Like you can have a plan and also have some flexibility around that, right? Like have some like space to move as things unfold. Because I feel like so many folks go into a particular childbirth method thinking this is like the magic ticket to make my thing happen.
Mhm.
And that's not true for any of the methods, first of all, but also it puts so much pressure on you to
Yeah.
learn it correctly or practice it sufficiently or whatever thing. So I love that the framing that you and Jenny have is more like we're going to help you like prepare for this experience, not knowing exactly moment by moment how the experience is going to unfold, you
Uh-huh.
know?
Uh-huh.
And not like if you do it well enough, you're going to get
Right.
this experience
Right.
that you want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the neat things about hypnosis is the brain absorbs information, and when you repeat that information over and over and over again, and you dig down to the subconscious and repeat it over
Mm-hmm.
and over again there, the subconscious absorbs that information and relays it back to the conscious mind in real time as though this is a past experience that already happened.
Oh,
So, Kaylee,
wow.
you understand that
Yeah.
second time births tend to be faster than first time births.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because there's muscle memory,
Yeah.
there's
Because they're like,
physical
we've done
memory,
this before. I know I
right?
can.
There's
Yes. Yep.
mental memory, there's less fear of the experience
Mm-hmm.
because it's already happened. And
Mm-hmm.
so, with hypnosis, if we can sort of trick the brain into
Yeah.
believing that this is a thing you've already done, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't need to
Super
be
safe.
scary,
Yeah.
right? You've already done it.
Yeah.
It's not as big of a physical feat because you have muscle memory because you've already
Yeah.
done it. Then
Mm-hmm.
that first birth for that person who has absorbed this experience of having already done it can be
Mm-hmm.
a second birth.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
a
why it's
beautiful way to describe it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome.
it is.
So what are your classes like? So I think Lindsay is the person you should do hypnobirthing with, for the record.
Thanks, Haley.
She's my first recommendation always.
Oh, you're so kind.
But what are your classes? What are they set up like? Like, are there, like, is it a series, or you already mentioned it's taught live?
Yeah, yeah. So I do two forms of this class.
Okay.
One is a live group class online,
Hmm.
and the other is an asynchronous, self-paced option
Hmm.
with live touch points. So I'll
Oh,
talk about the
wonderful.
first
Okay.
one. The live group class I teach several times a year, and it's
Hmm.
on Zoom. It's a 4 hour, 4 week class, 3 hours each week. I
Okay.
try to set it up so that they're consecutive weeks because we do offer students a practice schedule. So
Mm,
we
okay.
have, technique that we learn in week one, and we ask students to practice that technique each day, the first week.
Yeah.
And then we build on those techniques throughout the program.
Hmm.
We have three main techniques, and so we'll learn those in week one, week two, week three,
Okay.
and sorry, week one, week three, week four.
Okay.
In week two, we have less of a technique and more of a practice to deepen relaxation. So
Mm,
students learn how to apply the first technique in week one, and then they learn deepening skills in week two that set the stage for the next several techniques that they'll learn.
mm,
So in our 3 hours of class each week, we have a little bit of time to process and share what's been going well. What kinds of things do you might need help with?
mhm.
There's lots of opportunity for interaction with the students. Most of us used to teach our classes in person,
Yeah.
and the pandemic changed a lot of that.
Yeah.
And some folks are maybe going back to in person, but I really love the online format. It's one
Yeah.
thing the pandemic taught me. So I'm going to continue to teach
Hmm.
online. One of the downsides of online childbirth education is the students don't get to form those peer-to-peer relationships.
Yeah.
So Jenny and I built that into the class. There's
That's
lots of
awesome.
opportunity for breakout sessions. We have a break time. Sometimes the students leave class for break. Sometimes they stay, they hang out and chat with each other. So I love that part of this course as well, that
Hmm.
it's built in that relationship building.
Yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
in week three, we do a mock birth scene where
Mm,
students get to experience a visualization of birth, and we have make sure that their birth companion will be there with them in that class. The class is designed for the person giving birth and their companion.
okay.
But sometimes that companion isn't, present, or,
Yeah.
this isn't a, couple kind of relationship. And so the
Hmm.
birthing person is there on their own. But we ask that their primary support person
Hmm.
accompany them to week three, where
Okay.
we'll have a guided mock birth with opportunity for the companion to have an active role. We do
Hmm.
position changes, we do a scenario. We invite them to bring all the supplies that they might need for birth, like their
Hmm.
water bottle, their birth ball, some pillows. And it's a really fun and enlightening experience. Often our students finish that experience and go, I'm really ready for this.
Yeah.
And when that light bulb goes off, that's the coolest thing.
That's my favorite part of teaching, when
Yeah.
that happens. You're like,
Uh-huh.
yes, you are ready.
Right, right. It's very cool. Uh, And then the other thing that I really love about this particular class is we cover the fourth trimester as well.
Good.
So we
Yeah.
learn all about newborn care. We learn about care for the postpartum person, how to take care of their body, what their
Mhm.
emotional needs might be, how to
Mhm.
make sure they have the support system in place to aid that fourth trimester, making
Yep.
sure that everybody's needs are met. So that's an
That's
important
awesome.
piece of how we close our class.
Yeah. So then how does the asynchronous, why can't I say that word? How does that version differ? I guess two questions about it. How does it differ? And are those like touch points personal where it's just you and the couple, or is it like group touch points?
Yeah, great question. So let's start with that word asynchronous.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, I had no idea what that word meant. And to be honest, almost 6 months into the pandemic, while my children were doing asynchronous classes, I was still like, what does that mean?
Right. Siri,
Asynchronous
what is
just
asynchronous?
means
Right.
on your own, but sort of in combination with others who are doing the same thing.
Okay.
Um, so my asynchronous class offers the videos of class. So I recorded one of my live group classes. So
Okay.
students for the asynchronous option get 4 3-hour videos, each
Okay.
of the 4 classes that are taught in the HelloBirth Hypnobirthing program.
Mm-hmm.
They get the same guidebook that all my students get and the same digital materials that all my students get.
Okay.
Our students of this program have an app that they can access that has an audio library. It has a
So
digital
awesome.
workbook that's
Mhm.
interactive. It's really, really advanced and
Yeah,
sophisticated, really neat as well.
I
It's,
know. This is
you
part
know,
of why I'm so excited about
yeah,
it.
I'm gonna give my companion here, my business companion, all of the credit for that. She did an amazing job in getting those
Yeah.
digital materials ready. I wrote and recorded the scripts for the hypnosis audio library, and that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
awesome as well. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody gets access to the same materials.
Okay.
Live students will attend class with me and their peers together live. My asynchronous students will watch the video on their own time. And then they schedule a 1 hour touch point with me after each video. So
Okay.
4 weeks of videos, 4 1 hour touch points. And
Okay.
it's just me. So it's my time and my
Mm-hmm.
students' time individually. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about, what did you get out of this week's class? What questions do you have that weren't answered? Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about how you are experiencing this material and the techniques. Let's make sure
Yeah.
that they are working for you. If not, we have time in a group
Yeah.
class. When we have 10 students, we might not have time for each individual student in class to have all their questions answered. Um,
Yeah.
I see my students as part of my larger business family. So,
Mm-hmm.
our time in class is
Mm-hmm.
just that. It's just our time in class. If there are
Yeah.
things outside of class that they might need,
Mm-hmm.
a little conversation about how things are going for them, I'm always available to chat with them.
Yeah.
So in the asynchronous option, we have that opportunity during those touch points to have that kind of more intimate
Mm-hmm.
conversation about how this is working for them and
Yeah.
how they might apply this material in the birth facility that they've chosen and with the
Mm-hmm.
provider that they've chosen.
Yeah.
For those students who are local, I probably know their provider, having been in
Yeah.
this for so long. A lot of my students are across the country. I have
Okay.
students right now in Colombia.
Oh,
So obviously,
wow.
their providers or the
Right.
hospital in there.
Yeah.
I've had students as far away as California and
Yeah.
Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
Florida, New Hampshire, Texas, North Carolina, just all
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yeah. That's awesome too, because I know not everyone who listens to this podcast is DC local.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that means people have a chance to work with you no matter where they live, which is
Right.
amazing. Yeah.
And for my students who are out of the area, I do try to tap into the local birth community there. So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, if they're looking for a maternity-based chiropractor, I might be able to help find that in their area,
Yeah.
someone vetted. If they're looking
Yeah.
for a doula in their area, I can probably help
Mhm.
them find that as well.
Yeah. I love that the fact that we have some of those networks
Mhm.
nationwide and worldwide to be able to be like, hey, I have a student, like tell me
Right.
someone that you actually know and love because
Yeah.
we're Googling just like them otherwise,
Right.
so.
Right. Yeah, that network
Yeah.
is super key.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to leave some resources for listeners to connect with you.
Okay.
Aside from your classes, do you have like freebies or anything else that you want people to know about?
Sure. If they go onto my website, which is sunflowerswellness.com,
Hmm.
and they scroll around to the hypnobirthing page, which is also just /hypnobirthing, they can scroll down to the bottom of the page and download our HelloBirth hypnobirthing positive pregnancy affirmations. It's
Ooh.
maybe 15-minute MP3 that gives you a flavor and a sample of the kind of material and messages and ideas
Mhm.
that are part of this class.
That's
A lot of
awesome.
fun
I love
writing
that.
that list of affirmations. It was
Yeah.
all my favorite concepts about birth and pregnancy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I also love that because I think hypnosis, one of the things that can be really great about it is that you're listening to the same person often, like you have the same voice. But if that voice and person doesn't resonate well with you, that's
Right.
not helpful, so
Right. That's right.
you get a really good sense of like, this is what Lindsey sounds like in these
Uh-huh.
tracks,
Yes. And I
That's
hope that
amazing.
people like how my voice sounds. I
Yeah.
get a lot of I get a lot of feedback on that over
Yeah.
the years. In addition to being a hypnobirthing instructor, I'm also a hypnotherapist.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I often hear back from clients, your voice is so soothing.
I
And
mean, I feel like that too. I'm like, I bet you'd be amazing.
I'm like, well,
That's
Kayla, you can
fantastic.
download those positive pregnancy
Right.
affirmations.
I feel like I'm going to turn them into positive doula affirmations.
There you go. That's another neat part of hypnosis is that
Yeah.
you can substitute out a word or a phrase if it doesn't
Right.
really apply to you. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, in those affirmations, there are also affirmations about birth, and
Mm.
affirmations are present state, right? And so
Mm.
say I
Mm-hmm.
am, or I do, or I
Yep.
feel, not in the future, I will, right?
Yeah.
So for some people, as they're listening, they might think, well, wait, I'm not in labor yet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a normal response to have.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people, I would say, just accept that this is a future state, right?
Yeah.
Change that language. You can hear what it is that you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We're both parents. How many times have you told your kids, oh, you just heard what you wanted to hear?
Yes.
It's a
You're
skill
not
set.
actually listening to my whole thing. Yeah.
Right. It's called selective hearing.
Yeah. So we can use that to our advantage in this
Yes,
case.
exactly. Yeah, I'd welcome
Yeah.
anybody to come and download it. And
Yeah.
if you've got some feedback on it, I'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, of course. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so you all can easily connect with Lindsey. I do highly recommend her classes, and I'm looking forward to one day training even with her. So that's a future goal of mine.
Yeah, we've got our
Yeah,
second educators training coming up at the end of this week. I'm really excited about that.
I know.
Another one once.
Yeah, I'm so pumped for you and also like a tiny bit jealous that I can't do this round, but it makes absolutely no sense in my life to do it this
Yeah.
round.
Well,
So
when it does, I'm sure we'll see you.
yes, yes. Well, thank you again for giving us this bit of your time. I know the listeners will find it so helpful. For everyone listening, this is not yet the last bit of our childbirth ed, so we have a few more episodes left in this series, and then we'll be moving on from there. But please do send me questions that you have. I would love to add your question to the list for this semester. I'm so stuck in school, this series. And in the meantime, we wish you well-informed, consent-filled births.
These episodes are edited and produced by Kaylee Harrod, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And our amazing music is credited in the show notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, have wonderful and consent-filled births.